Hello YouTube, I hope you're doing well. I hope your November is going okay. My month has been a little bit hectic so far. I've been doing Tome Topple Readathon, and I've been doing Nano, and I've started work on some really important applications. So yeah, I've been a bit thinly stretched. As such, I haven't really paid attention to the end of the year book tag until now. I know they were coming up all over my feed, so I'm a little late to the game. But I figured now is as good a time as any to do it. I want to start by maybe doing a short recap of my reading year. I've had a surprisingly good reading year. I am about 4 books behind on my Goodreads goal, but I've got some pretty short books that can make up for that. There's some really nice graphic novels out there that I'm really interested in, but are also quite short, so I know I can just power through them. I made a promise to myself last year that I wouldn't just read books for the sake of meeting my Goodreads goal, but still really good to hit that Goodreads goal when you do. So yeah, I've been able to keep up a pretty consistent reading habit up until maybe August. That was when work on my thesis really accelerated, and I just didn't have any brain space to read, frankly. So that put me really behind on my Goodreads goal, but I'm sure with a bit of grit I can improve that situation. So with that being said, let's get on with the end of the year book tag. The first question is, are there any books that you started this year and need to finish? I've got to say, I don't have that many outstanding books at the moment. I did start reading The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I've been reading this as part of the Tome Topple Readathon. I also started reading A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness today, also part of the Tome Topple Readathon. I don't often have outstanding books that I need to read. However, there is one book that is kind of an embarrassment for me. That is Der Vorleser by Bernhard Schlink. You may know this novel as The Reader, which is the English title. So of course it's a German World War II novel. I started this book maybe 7 years ago. That sounds terrible. But yeah, I was abroad in Berlin on a summer program and I decided to pick up a couple German novels. We had read excerpts of this in my immersion course and the writing was really beautiful and the reading level wasn't too hard, so I decided to pick this up. But I don't read German at the same speed as I read English, obviously. I still need to read a bit with a dictionary. And also, since I stopped taking German classes, my vocab has declined a bit. So it's been hard to read German since then. And also, when I was in college, I was also reading other German texts. And so this kind of went to the wayside. And if you go to my Goodreads, this is still on my currently reading list. So yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. I want to read this. I need to finish it, but I just haven't found the time. The next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? And I guess a perfect book for that would be The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. It's basically about vampires in New Orleans. People are raving about it being the book to bring back vampires, and it really speaks to me because Lestat and Louis from Interview with the Vampire start out as vampires living in New Orleans. So yeah, I'm hoping for a bit of horror, a bit of supernatural, and a bit of romance, which should be perfect for the last days of autumn. The next question is, are there new releases that you're still waiting for? Without a question, I'm still waiting for The Queen of Nothing. That actually might be out already. That, of course, is the final book of the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. The first book was Cruel Prince. I've still yet to read the second book, The Wicked King, but I did love The Cruel Prince, so after I'm done The Wicked King, I am immediately picking up Queen of Nothing. And another new release, which I think has already come out, is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Erin Morgenstern, of course, wrote one of my favorite fantasy novels, The Night Circus, and of course, I have seen those UK hardback editions. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And I've already heard a rave review from Sam from Thoughts on Tome, so of course I can't wait to read it. And the next question is, 3 books I want to read before the end of the year. The first one, of course, is The Wicked King by Holly Black. You've heard me talk ad nauseum about this series. So of course this series is about a human girl named Jude who grows up in the land of the fairies and wants to raise her status in that world. And from what I know, this book is going to deal a lot with the repercussions of her actions in the previous book. The world building is amazing in this book, and there are some really amazing characters, including one very complicated prince. And another book I want to read is The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I got this copy at Yalk in 2018, so I've had this book for over a year now. I also got this copy signed by Tomi Adeyemi, overcoming a huge signing queue. So from what I know, this book is a fantasy based around a lot of West African folklore. It is a real booktube darling, so I am feeling very behind. And of course now they're teasing the sequel, so of course I have to read it. And the third book that I really want to read before the end of the year is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is on my fall TBR. I am really planning to pick it up before the end of Tome Topple, then at least finish it out by the end of the year. But of course, it takes place in an alternative Regency England with wizards, and it inspired one of my favorite miniseries. And that's just another book where I've been making my way through other books and building up to it, but really I just want to get a hold of it and read it. The next question is, are there any books that could surprise you and become your favorite? That's kind of tricky because I don't know what could necessarily surprise me. I'm reading a lot of fantasy and any of those could become my favorites, but I wouldn't say that would necessarily be a surprise. The closest I would say is the Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I have to admit this is a very slow read at the moment. Not because it's necessarily boring or bad, but there are a lot of moving parts and people that just get thrown at you that you have to kind of keep track of. It's like this person had this alias, and then there's also this person who is a player and introduced themselves this way, and then this person does that and they arrived at this point. It's kind of like that meme with the lady with the mathematical formulas. So yeah, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of people to keep track of, a lot of names, a lot of Victorian legalities I'm not familiar with, but it came highly recommended to me, so you never know. The last question is, have you already made reading plans for 2020? I have some loose reading goals for 2020. I wouldn't say I necessarily have concrete reading plans. Certainly one of the goals I have for next year and that I have made every year is to read more German novels. I'm always hoping to keep up my German literacy and improve my reading skills and keep my vocab. So of course I want to keep reading Der Vorleser. I also have this copy of Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and this is a German edition. I'm always of a mind that if there's a novel originally in German and the reading level isn't too tough, then I really should just have a crack at it. Another loose reading goal I have is to make a dent in some of the ebooks that I've had on my Kindle app for the longest time. That would include books like My Lady Jane, also A Shadow Bright and Burning by Jessica Cluess. And those are books that I've been wanting to read for a long time, but other books just simply got in the way. Kindle daily deals, they just keep you getting books all the time. And you have no physical sense of having got a book because basically it just appears on your Kindle app when you click a button. So it's just hard to keep track of how many books you're actually accumulating on your Kindle. Also, if anyone knows of any upcoming ebook readathons, please let me know. I know something like that would be super helpful. And certainly I want to read more Brandon Sanderson. I want to finish the Mistborn Trilogy. I'm told the rest of it is very good. I've only read the first book. And also The Way of Kings. I do have all of the books of the Stormlight Archive on my Kindle as well. Again, big fantasy books. Never got around to them. And also a series that I've been wanting to revisit is the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. Of course, Wheel of Time is one of those must-read fantasy series. I read the first 3 books when I was about 12, but I think at the time my mind couldn't quite process all of the moving parts in that world, and I kind of left it behind. But then I was told later on by people who have read the whole thing that it is quite rewarding when you make it all the way through. And of course, it's a series that Brandon Sanderson finished off after Robert Jordan passed away. And there's also a TV adaptation coming up, so I better read up. So that was my end of the year book tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. I just checked and I am currently 27 subscribers away from 1,000. I never thought I would get to this point, but I am so grateful to those of you who helped me get there. Subscribe to my channel, of course, if you haven't. I would be so thankful. You can also follow me on Twitter and Goodreads, and I will see you in my next video.